Right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Neil and any other guests that might be joining us as well. I'm going to be sharing my screen in a second. And tonight we are talking about cravings and what we can do about them, especially this time of the year when there seem to be a lot of extra things lying around that tend to make people want to test them and then not get enough of them and want to have more and more and more. And yes, we won't to take it any further than that. Let me share my screen. And there we go. So tonight we're talking about cravings and how we can control the cravings that actually damage our health. Addiction is one of the main things, and we probably know by now that sugar is one of those nasty things that is very, very addictive. Researchers have revealed new evidence suggesting that under certain circumstances, food cravings can be similar to those experienced by a drug addict. That's one pretty strong language over there, but think about it, because have you ever stopped at just one sweet item or just one thing that you really, really like? Have you ever been stressed or exhausted and opted for a fast food option instead of cooking from scratch? You know, you've had a long day, you're tired, and the thought of standing in the kitchen cooking from scratch, which you know is the healthy thing to do, is quite overwhelming. And then you drive home and you drive past the KFC or the Nando's, or as we just discovered in our place, the new McDonald's, and you go, let me have somebody else cook tonight. I think it might be a good idea. But do you know what they've put in that food that they're trying to sell us? Thoughts of their juicy cheeseburgers, the perfect crispy fries, the refreshing soda, spark an overwhelming craving, gets your mouth watering. I hope it hasn't happened to anybody right now while I'm talking. You know that you should stick to your plan and cook dinner at home, but you start to justify it to yourself because it's just this once, it's just, I'm tired, I owe it to myself, I've had a rough week, it's been a good day, but I'm really tired and I'll spoil the family, I'll spoil myself with a treat tonight. Overindulging in cravings can lead to overeating and obesity, a state shown to be linked with various chronic diseases and even early death. So, as I said earlier, it's very, very difficult to stop at that one fry, that one piece of fudge, that one chip out of the packet, that etc. You know what you crave for on a regular basis. You know what gets those taste buds going and that you can't get enough of. Very, very difficult. And before you know it, because it's just one, and it's just another one, and before you know it, you look down and your toes are disappearing because you can't really see them anymore because, well, yes. So what causes these cravings? Root cause of cravings can be traced to a few key factors. Things like external cues, conditioning, and addiction. We're going to go into a little bit of psychology tonight. And when these factors combine, cravings can become harder and harder to resist. A recent presentation at the annual meeting of the American College of Nutrition, ACN, revealed how externally cued, conditioned cravings for processed foods may be the primary reason that people overeat. And the external cues are, down here on the South Coast, when I drive home, I drive past a Nando's, a KFC, new one called Poncho's, I think it is, a Tiago's, and a brand new McDonald's. Those are all down the street that I drive. And we all know what those signs mean. You've probably eaten food from every one of those places, and you just see the name, or worse, you smell the KFC being cooked, and well, that sets off. And that's the externally cued. You see an advert for these things. That's your conditioned craving. And as I said, it's very, very difficult to stop at one, because I just want one more. Craving pathways are susceptible to conditioning. Now, a study published on Pavlovian conditioning conducted experiments showing that a food reward is remembered, hard to forget, and persistent, even when the subject is food satiated, meaning even if you're full and somebody offers you another chip or another piece of fudge, how easy is it for you to say, no, thank you, I've had enough? It can be very, very difficult. And for those of you who have done psychology in the past, you will have heard about Pavlov and his dogs. And I'll get into that a little bit just now as well. But this can mean that when we repeatedly give in to cravings of unhealthy food, the unhealthy responses become reinforced and exponentially stronger. So it becomes more and more difficult to say, no, thank you, I've had enough. Just one more won't hurt, surely, but it does hurt. It's like a smoker saying, I'm just going to have one more cigarette, then I'm quitting. Or an alcoholic who says, I can quit easily, I'm just going to have one more drink. And we know what happens. Well, food is exactly the same way, operates in the same way. It has been proposed that there are 4 neurocircuits that form a network involved with addiction. And these are reward, motivation or drive, memory, and control. And I actually think this is true also for daily habits. Because I don't know about you, but I know I've got certain things. In the morning, I wake up and I do certain things at certain times, and it becomes a habit. And I often look at my watch and go, oh, you're running late this morning. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have wasted time on this. You shouldn't have wasted time on that. But it becomes part of life. It becomes part of your daily routine. And to change that, very, very difficult. So normally these 4 components work in harmony to make the best decision possible based on all the information available. However, in an addicted brain, the memory and desire for a reward overwhelms the portion of the brain that controls impulse. So it is very, very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult to break it. And this results in a pattern of behavior where a person is driven to seek out the reward, whether it is food or drugs or a cigarette or a drink, regardless of the negative consequences. We know it's bad. We know we're going to be sorry about it. We know we're going to be feeling bloated if we have that extra serving of dessert. We know we're going to be kicking ourselves the next day, but we really can't help it. It's very, very difficult. And published research has demonstrated that decision-making impairments in obese people and drug addicts are made by activating the same parts of the brain. That's a scary thought. You know, we look at people who are drug addicts or alcoholics and we go, oh, shame, you know, that poor person. And we know it's difficult. But actually, if we get involved with our food in the same way, it is just as bad as a drug addict. The study showed that the prefrontal cortex is part of the brain in the front, which is the part of the brain associated with decision-making and controlling inhibitions in food and drug addicts, is overpowered by the need for immediate rewards, despite knowing that there are more favorable but delayed responses. So it's like that little voice sitting on your shoulder saying, no, 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 you shouldn't have that extra spoonful. And the other one saying, just one more won't hurt you. And it's a delayed response because this little guy on this shoulder says, you need to stop now. And this little guy says, just ignore that one over there. You know you're going to enjoy that extra spoonful of dessert. And that's where the problems start. So cravings resulted in an inability to effectively evaluate long-term risk versus short-term reward of a behavior. We don't think what's going to happen to us next month, next year, 5 years, 10 years down the line, after we've put on that extra 1 kilo, which becomes 10 kilos, which becomes 20 kilos, which becomes 30 kilos, which becomes upwards of 100 or more kilos. And then the problems start. Your lungs take strain, your heart takes strain, your knees take strain, your feet take strain, etc. And it's a whole big thing that just spirals in. So some of the biochemistry of cravings is stress, which leads to brain and hormone and nervous system overdrive, leads to poor metabolism, which leads to junk food or high sugar diet, leads to carbohydrate intolerance, leads to cravings and hunger, which leads to learned addiction, behavior, and memory. And the whole lot, it becomes a vicious cycle. Believe it or not, your cravings can be a result of biochemical signals in your body and your brain, which may or may not be completely in your direct control. So you may not be entirely responsible for your reactions. Your brain produces go transmitters like dopamine and glutamate that may cause you to succumb to cravings, because your brain is a nasty thing. It can trick you into all sorts of different things. This little processor over here is very, very potent. On the other hand, the stop transmitters like GABA enable you to exercise control. So there's this whole big fight happening in your brain, go, stop, etc. The stop systems are located in the frontal areas of the brain that are the last to develop in adolescence and lost or reduced in addicts. So if children get addicted to sugar and carbohydrates, it's going to be very, very difficult to reverse that later on in life. Controlling your glycemic response and blood sugar can destabilize food addictions. So if your blood sugar levels are not spiking, dropping, spiking, dropping, and it's more on a controlled level, you won't always crave those foods that you're looking for. So this is the Pavlov's dog experiment over here. So you show a dog food and its mouth waters and it becomes hungry. If you just ring a bell, nothing happens to the dog. Now you ring a bell and you introduce food to the dog, his mouth is going to water. And you get to the stage where you don't have to produce the food, you just have to ring the bell. And the dog's going, to ring the bell, that means food. And that's where the problem comes about. So this is the psychology behind cravings in processed foods. The theory that addictions can be greatly influenced by environmental stimuli through neuroconditioning was first hypothesized by Ivan Pavlov in the early 1920s. My apologies for the big words, but this is scientific. Modern day researchers have now expanded on this foundation and use it to apply to eating behaviors. Some key conclusions are that when we condition ourselves to an unhealthy response through repetition, combined with the external cues, the result is processed food addiction may become worse than drug addiction. Now, there's a scary thought. Increased cravings due to heightened release of peripheral peptides and hormones such as insulin, ghrelin, leptin, orexin, etc. Those are all big words. You don't have to worry too much about it, but these are your hormones that are being released and stimulated. And the ghrelin, just by the way, is that tummy grumbling that you have. That's ghrelin. Suppression of decision-making, memory, learning, and inhibition. And a loss of control and overeating. So this becomes a problem. So what makes these cravings overwhelming? Cue-conditioned cravings can be overwhelming and persistent if cues are paired with processed, kilojoule-dense food. Unprocessed foods do not cause overwhelming cravings. So your complex carbohydrates, your simple foods, you go out to the garden and you pick a carrot, that type of food, more than the stuff that you go to the deli and you get stuff that has been made in a plant, not by a plant. Those are the foods that are problems. Multiple cues at once, such as the sight and smell of food. I said, you drive past a KFC, you see the sign, you smell the smells coming out of it. That is what triggers these cues. And this compounds the effectiveness of the craving, making it stronger than just having one cue. So you're driving along and, look at that, there's a gap in the traffic. Oh, let me drive through the drive-through order section quickly before I change my mind. Afterwards you go, oh, shouldn't have done that. But hey, while it's here, I'll just eat it anyway. Repetition of cues makes a stronger and longer lasting impact. Prolonged exposure to the cue, e.g. having to walk through 4 rows of snacks instead of one. Have you ever been in shopping centers and you're queuing at the till? What is in those checkout counters? Where on either side of you? What do you see? Do you see healthy stuff over there? Or do you see sugar-laden, tempting treats? These guys know exactly how to get us. And you're walking through and the queue's taking a long time and you go, I think I'll just have that chocolate. I think I'll just have that chocolate. It's just one. And it makes it more likely that one will give into the craving. Now, I don't know if anybody's noticed, if you go to Woolworths, they actually picked up on this. And when you walk down their checkout queue, they've only got healthy snacks in that queue. They don't have junk food anymore. And they've been doing that for a good number of years. Other shops don't do that. So how do we retrain your brain? And you can retrain your brain because, as we've seen now, your brain has been trained to give in to the desire for the junk food. So how do we retrain the brain to overcome this craving? A study published in the Journal of Cerebral Cortex shows neurological support that cue exposure and response prevention reduces brain reward activation, which is a precursor for decreases in cravings. Some big words over there, but basically, if you can reduce the number of cues and not reward your brain craving these things, it won't crave the bad food quite as much as it does the good food. So the good news is that there is data indicating that focusing on the cost of eating and the benefits of not eating the food you're craving increases the strength of an inhibitory brain region, and thus makes it easier for you to say no in the future. It's training. Just like anything, you want to get fit. You don't go along on the 1st of January and you sign up at the local gym, and that's the last time you enter the gym. You've got to go on a regular basis. And how do you do that? You get a personal trainer who says, hey, you went to the gym yesterday. What happened? What are you doing? Let me help you. So this is one of the things that we need to do with the brain as far as food is concerned as well. So that means that by practicing not succumbing to your cravings, the strength of those cravings will decrease over time. However, this new pattern of behavior must be maintained and practiced, or old habits and conditioning will re-emerge. Pretty much with anything. A bad habit seems to be so much easier to get into than a good habit. And my suggestion would be, find a friend, find a support partner who can hold you accountable. This is what happens with Alcoholics Anonymous. They've got somebody that if they feel like they're falling off the edge and they're going to fall off the wagon, they can phone them any time, day or night, and say, listen, I'm having a meltdown, help. And if you are in that situation, as far as food is concerned, find a friend who you can contact at any time, day or night, who is there to back you up and support you, and help you get you back where you should be. So where do we start? There is hope. So where do we start? Number one, you need to shop in places with an abundance of healthy options, like farmers markets. You go to a farmer's market, you're not going to find chips and sweets and hamburgers and other junk lying around. So start there. Get away from the temptation. Stay away from the vending machines. In chain grocery stores, you shop in the periphery, the outer edges, where the fresh produce is located. Because where are the sweets and the processed foods kept? In the middle of the shop. Where are your fridges and things kept? Around the outer edges. So that's where you start. You work your way around the outside. Stay away from the middle. Pretend that you are a learner ice skater and you need to stay on the side of the ice rink, because you know that if you end up in the middle, you are going to slip and fall. So do yourself a favor, become a learner skater and skate around the outside of the store. If your television can pre-record your favorite shows, then take advantage of it and fast forward through those tempting fast food ads. And do the same for your children who are also susceptible, because young brains are easier to retrain than older brains. I'm going to have to move it because I've only got a few minutes left. You need to carry healthy alternatives with you when you're on the go. So get a protein bar as a snack, not just a packet of chips or something. Make your home a healthy oasis where you won't be tempted. You get enough temptations outside. So keep healthy snacks available, carrot sticks, that sort of thing. Protein bars, healthy protein bars. And steer clear of vending machines. Take inventory of your triggers. Look at what's causing those triggers. Pay attention to the things that tend to lead you down the path towards processed foods. Common triggers include TV, grocery stores, restaurants, and car or highway billboards. Then you need to create a realistic strategy to control your environment. Again, find a friend to help you. For example, throw out or give away the unhealthy temptations lurking in your pantry, freezer, and refrigerator. I know it's tough to get rid of that ice cream in the freezer, but if you really, really have to have it, keep a very small container, not a big 5-liter container. This may feel painful at first with the thought of how much money you might be wasting, but it is well worth it. I'm in the medical field. I know how expensive healthcare is these days. Protecting your health is invaluable. In addition to looking and feeling better, staying healthy can save you potential healthcare costs in the long run. As I said, I know how expensive physicians and other treatments cost these days to get healthy. Much easier to stay healthy. Plan ahead. Plan and prepare your meals and snacks ahead of time. Planning for the week is ideal, but if your schedule just won't allow for that, then at the very least you should be preparing for your day. Waiting until you're hungry to decide what to eat is like knowingly setting a trap for yourself, especially since you have just now read about how cravings can suppress inhibitions and your ability to make rational decisions. Never go shopping when you're hungry. It is also important to mentally prepare yourself for situations that used to be a trigger: vacations, restaurants, disappointments, and difficult relationships. Those stressful things, those stress triggers. So how do we put these cravings into remission? Avoid being in environments that tempt you to eat unhealthily. Disassociate eating from craving cues. Educate yourself about cues, conditioning, and craving. So learn what is triggering your craving. Try and reverse it. It's not easy, but it's doable. Did you know that protein is incredibly powerful? make sure that you have enough protein in your diet. The United States Department of Agriculture recommends daily consumption of 0.8 grams per kilogram of your body weight, because if you have a very high protein diet, you won't have the cravings. Higher amounts, up to 50% higher, are recommended for those trying to lose weight or build lean muscle, which is why in our weight loss program, the protein shake is the core and key ingredient. So that could be up to 90 grams for a 75 kilogram, 1.78 meter tall man, or 75 grams for a 64 kilo, 1.65 meter tall woman. You can do the maths, but those who are needing to lose weight or athletes need more protein. Studies show that higher protein diets help suppress hunger, increase satiety, and burn fat, thereby promoting weight loss and making it easier to stay on a weight loss program. I think our SAB knew what they were doing when they put together our breakfast pack and our weight management program. It's a good idea to get 20 to 25% of your daily kilojoules from a complete, high-quality protein that has all 22 amino acids involved in human nutrition. And it is important to get this all at one time. Try to get protein in every meal and snack to meet your personalized daily target. So sit down and have a look at what you're eating and work out what the protein is. It will require some homework, but it will be worth it. So the nutrition that's recommended to curb cravings. A micronutrient-rich diet that includes the full spectrum of essential vitamins and minerals can also help support optimal health, leaving little room for cravings. Because if you're not hungry, you're not going to crave. Nutrient-dense foods such as dark leafy greens and colorful fruits and veggies fill you up, pack in a big load of nutrients, and are low in kilojoules. Making your food choices to maximize nutrients per kilojoule is key. It is important to recognize that low nutrient eating and toxic eating leads to increased cellular toxicity with undesirable levels of free radicals and advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, lipofuscin, lipid A to E, and other toxins that contribute to the development of chronic disease. So basically, the lower the nutrient value of the food, the greater the chance of developing chronic disease in the long term. Things like arthritis, cardiac conditions, diabetes, etc. Findings report that these toxic substances lead to addictive withdrawal symptoms, toxic hunger, that result in the desire to eat more frequently and overeat. So one has to be careful. Low nutrient eating therefore establishes a mechanism that leads to food addictions and food cravings that can't be ignored. You need to supplement to meet your nutrient needs, because if you're not getting it from your diet, you need to get it from a good quality supplement. Micronutrients have been shown to decrease cravings. So addictive foods to avoid: refined sugar, sugar alcohols, artificial sugar substitutes. So those diet things don't work. Refined flours, foods high in saturated or trans fats, high salt foods, stimulants, alcohol, and fermented beverages. Mixing sugar, refined flour, fat, and salt are all addictive. And we need to protect our kids. You start early. USDA recommends 5 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables each day. It is a sad fact that many Americans do not meet these requirements, and neither do South Africans. In 2013, the US Center for Disease Control and Prevention published a population study surveying dietary habits and found that adults only average 2.7 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Adolescents average an even more dismal 2.3 servings a day. The power of good nutrition in early childhood development has been well documented, and researchers are even expanding their studies to include how nutrition can impact children with disabilities like autism. A published study found that children on the autism spectrum who received macronutrient management achieved symptom management comparable to those who are on pharmaceutical management. That's a wow. In fact, the children on micronutrient management experienced these advantages: less social withdrawal, less anger, better spontaneity, less irritability and lower intensity, markedly fewer adverse events, less weight gain, and that is the end of that. So my apologies, we have about a minute left. So hopefully that covered all the bases. We've got a minute, so if anybody's got any questions, please fire away and I'll try and answer it quickly. Please unmute yourself if you do.
Well done, Sean.
Sean, that was fantastic. Such hard work. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
For the guests who are on this, I am making this is going to be recorded, so please, I will send it out. If you need one, whoever invited you, please ask them for the recording and I will send it to those that I know. Because there are some guests over here that I'm not recognizing right now. So if anybody's got questions, please feel free to contact me. We are going to bomb out in a minute. And as I said, I will be sending out recordings, so please feel free to ask away whenever.